Well, welcome everyone. This is John Craig.
And this is Sandy.
And we welcome you to this edition of Walking in Spirit and Truth.
Yes.
So
I'll scoot over so you can scoot over so we can get centered.
All right. Okay, we're still shifting and we're getting ourselves in place.
That's right.
So, but nevertheless, hey, we're so glad that you've joined us this evening. So you know who we are. Sandy and I pastor Life of Worship here in Amarillo, Texas. And we would love for you to come by at any point in time once they open things up and come visit us. If you're ever in the area, if you're passing down I-40, I-27, 287, wherever on the way to Denver, Dallas, Oklahoma City, Albuquerque, we're on the way. So that's who we are, and we would love to meet you and chat with you and get to know you a little bit. So and also, you can find out more about Life of Worship in Amarillo, Texas by going to www.lifeofworshipamarillo.org. We'll put that up here on the banner here in just a few minutes. Also, you can contact us at LOW@lifeofworshipamarillo.org, and we'd love to chat with y'all about that as well. We see Terry and Joe in the chat room. Hello, Terry and Joe. We're so good to have you, and so glad that you're here this evening with us.
Here's something I know everybody can figure out by now. When you're in charge of the camera in the show, they know what we're going to have. When it's me, then they know they're going to have a teaching.
You never know what you're going to get out of me. But nevertheless, hey, we do want to talk about several different things this evening, and hopefully to keep everybody informed and on top of things, what's going on in the world around us. And so that is what I wanted to touch base with y'all this evening. I had a good conversation with Eddie Chumney the other day. Yesterday. And
2 weeks ago.
Yeah. And so he
is a friend. If you don't know, he's a good friend. So
we've been talking about different things, but he gave me a call and brought my attention to something that was
But how happening. Did he do it? You're the only one I could talk to.
Yeah. We track together. So anyway, but nevertheless, he gave me a call and he said, "Hey, have you he said, how did he exactly phrase it? Hey, how would you like, I'll pay you, I think at that point in time, $32 a barrel to store crude oil." I'm like, what? Pay me $32? I said, I don't have a place to store crude oil. He says, well, the markets are, they'll pay you to have crude oil. I'm like, whoa, okay, all right. So what's going on? And he said, yeah, yesterday when he called me, it was like minus $32 a barrel for West Texas Intermediate crude.
That's so sad.
And that, I'm like, whoa. And I said, okay, I'm going to check this out. So I pulled it up, and it was, by that time, it was already down. It had already dropped to 37. And then I checked the low. I think it was like minus $40 a barrel when I looked at the low for the 52-month rolling daily lows. And so $40 minus $40 a barrel. I mean, that's a lot of.
But why is it so hard on the oil industry? Why is it in the negatives? I mean, I don't understand that, because before we know it, then there's a demand for oil and the price goes up, and so we're getting rid of crude oil now. Stop drilling then.
Yeah. So basically what it is it's the futures. It's the futures market. And that's what they're basically looking at. And then I think it ended yesterday at about minus 11. And then today, or minus 9, I don't know. It had come up. It was pushing back up again. And then today it was at $11 a barrel. And
terrible.
Sometime this afternoon when I took a look at it. Now, part of it is the futures. They're bidding on the commodities. They basically, when it's that low, they can't get rid of it. But it's also part of the reset, and it's part of it's time to reset in the oil markets and that type of thing, so that they can put out the contracts for the future. In fact, I talked to one person earlier this week about, maybe it was last week, and he said, yeah. I've got a friend who's down in the oil market, down in the Permian Basin, which is West Texas, southern part of West Texas. And they're doing really good because they are sitting at a contract at $52 a barrel. That's what they bid their contract out in December. So they're set for the whole year at $52 a barrel. I mean, that it's just part of how they do the business, and you bid on it and you say, this is the way I'm going to do our deal. But, you know, the word tells us not to touch the oil and the wine. And what part of what Eddie and I were talking about yesterday is it's part of that the oil industry is actually recognizing the fact that we're in a depression. And they're the first,
not because of President Trump.
No, but it is the first market. It's the first world, the major world market that's saying we really are in a depression. And the other markets haven't reset yet, like the financial markets, the banking markets, that type of thing, because the banks are holding up, like Wall Street. They're holding up the stocks, and it's all artificial. But eventually these things will start to shift unless they can get this market to turn around, unless they can start getting things to get back to work. And they need to do it in a hurry, not in a gradual way. Like some of these governors, even Governor Abbott of Texas, he said, oh, they're going to start next week. They're going to let people start going back to work, but it's a gradual way. And if you got a mom and pop store, then it's curbside service. You can't let people come in your store. I'm like, okay, so what if you have a little clothing boutique? You know, what about people want to just go try on some clothes? You're going to do curbside service for that?
Or people that need it. Like today, Mariah needed some more socks. I had one or two pair and I couldn't find any. And I'm like, I need to go buy socks.
Yeah. And some places, Walmart has roped off the clothing areas because it's not essential. And I'm like,
if you're in the store,
grab what you need. I mean, after all, it is actually the government store because it's the government approved store. So nevertheless, I mean, these are things that we're facing with right now. But the key element is this, and the key takeaway of what the oil markets are doing, and we're looking at these. We've had a roaring economy for 3.5 years since President Trump was elected. That's essentially what took place, a roaring market.
And the Democrats wanted to bring it down.
And so now with this Wuhan virus, now don't get me wrong, there are elements in this Wuhan virus that are affecting people. And what it really looks like is that it's targeting people in nursing homes. But then how many of those people in the nursing home they're saying is Wuhan virus related? But it's not, because, you know, they're just labeling everything as a death by Wuhan virus, a coronavirus, whatever, however you want to call it. So but here's the other element. These things really affected the economy. These things have been set up.
Well, when you lay off everybody that's working in the United States, almost 90%, then it is going to affect the economy.
Right. 20% of the United States is unemployed, and they can't even get unemployment because they can't get through on the lines. I mean, everything is just backed up. It's just really in a bad situation. And we need to pray for those. We know people that are.
And where are those stipend checks anyway?
Yeah, well, and that's another question, because there's a lot of people that didn't get it because even the whole system is backed up and backlogged. And by the way, if you got your $1,200, you're going to have to pay taxes on it. Just saying. Nothing's ever free. But these are different elements, and going back to what Eddie and I were talking about and what he was sharing with me, and he says, look, we really need to step back and look at this whole thing, because when you go look at the 6 seals, you go back and you look at the 4 horsemen that are in Revelation chapter 6, that these things precede the Great Tribulation. And right now, when we look at it, just kind of a overall view of the oil markets, when we look at the overall view, there's no place to hold the extra oil. There's just not any. And yet, I mean, there's a lot more to that. But when you look at that, you look at how that, unless the company is driving, then everything else is affected. We have a very serious situation. We've been talking about it here on Walking in the Spirit of Truth and at Life of Worship for months. We have a very situation with food that they've already gone deeply into the summer
current
and
stores.
the summer and the fall storages.
And usually your years before you get in those stores are for a few years from now.
They've already gone deep into that. So once those are done, they're done. And that's why if you have the ability to grow a garden, get some seeds, they say seeds are not essential. Why? That's a whole nother thing. But if you can control the food, you can control the people. You need to get some seeds. If you can't get it locally, order it online, do whatever you can, get some seeds, get them in the ground. If you have the ability to get some storable food to supplement the foods that you can get at the grocery store currently, get storable food. You can buy storable food that's gourmet quality.
Not gourmet, but it's
no,
edible.
I'm telling you, there's some that's very, very good quality, and it's clean, clean food. If you can get that still. You might have to wait 4 to 6 weeks to get it, but you can still get it. You still order it. And the reason why I'm saying that is because once the foods start running out, that's when there's going to be bad news around grocery stores. You just don't want to be going to the grocery stores. You want to have your own storable food that you can have, you can break into, that'll help you out. You need to get that, whatever you can do. Now, here's the thing. People look at the prices on the storable food. They say, man, they're so expensive. It's actually, when you calculate it, calorie per calorie, it's about what they say, it costs you 5 times more to buy it at the grocery store, calorie per calorie. So
it's also better. I'm sorry, it is, but
so yeah, it's not fresh, produce and that type of thing you can get at the grocery store. But I'm saying the storable food allows you to supplement, augment your grocery store shopping. Those are just some things that you need to consider, because it's meant to last for a long time. It's good to invest. And if for some reason this thing just blows over and this isn't the time of the 4 horsemen, then you've got an investment that you can eat. You didn't waste any money. It's something that you can use for later on, whatever you want to go to. You need to get food. Please listen to me. You need to get food.
And I think everybody, even if you're in an apartment, have a couple tomato plants or pepper plants or something, because you can grow almost everything in pots. You can't have much. Even us, we have a postage stamp backyard, which is better than an apartment, but we're just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
The other thing is you need to have some type of water filter system, because I saw one report that had real big concern that at some point in time, we may have some issues even getting water. And why? Because everything is related. What if they can't get the chemicals to the water treatment plants to get that to treat the water that's put into the city water supply? Then you have to have some type of filtration system so that you can cook. If you have storable foods, you have to rehydrate it. You have to do things. You need to have water add to it. So you need to have some type of filter program to get that. So these are just some things you need to consider that's going on. And I wanted to put that out there. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Tammy says that she's been making meat and eggs and dehydrating them. I'd love to know how to dehydrate eggs. Anyway, she also said she's been dehydrating frozen fruit and veggies, and she's working on her container gardening. Good job, Tammy.
Yeah, good deal. And so you really need, get the word out. If you tell your loved ones, this is very serious, because someone's going to come knocking on your door asking for food. And
that's a whole nother show.
And that's a whole nother show right there. But the thing is you got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of you and your family. And so we need
your congregation,
and then your congregation and all those different things. And we've been telling people for years to do it, and people procrastinated to do it. or there's financial issues.
There's financial. I mean, we haven't purchased any storable food because there's financial.
Yeah.
issues,
And the other, but if it means, I hate to say this.
No, I don't agree with that.
What?
You pay your mortgage.
No.
First.
What I'm saying is, if it means just buying ramen noodles, I mean, we know the chemicals in it, the MSGs, that type of thing. Get what you can. Get extra. Get beans. I mean, even here, like finding dried beans those are in short supply, and so those are even hard to find. And those are some things that you need to be looking at. And yeah, there's some issues. Get out of debt here,
but it's hard to do when nobody's working. You can't get out of debt.
Right.
In fact, you get further in debt.
So and there's some things that are going on. I saw some YouTube videos about people in New York. They are shut down. They couldn't work. They're out of money. Their bank accounts are empty. They can't buy food, and they're looking in their refrigerator saying, we're trying to figure out how to make this thing last. People are feeling that way, not only just in New York City, but all over the country, because they're not able to work. So these are some things that.
How long of the supply of the food do we need?
And you honestly, what you need is at least a year. Before we were talking about three to 6 months.
But then you look at that. Where would you store? I mean, we don't have a year's worth of food. Where would you even store that?
Yeah, I don't know. But if we think about, we don't know what this year's harvest season is going to be like. Last year, we had several years of wonderful harvests, and then last year the whole nation's harvest was down about 25%. So because we had a cool spring. And wet spring, lots of flooding going around, and then fall came very early, so they couldn't even get some of that stuff out of the fields, and they lost a lot of crops from the field. So consider that as well.
Tammy says she's heard that we need 18 months.
Yeah, 18 months, because if this is not the time of Yeshua's return, we have to consider these things. Now, it brings us to the next element, and I was listening to Stephen Ben-Nun. Some of you may have already listened to his report. And he said, look, it's really serious. He says, the reports that I've been listening to is that these asteroid fields are very real, and also the weather changes are very real, and that by the time we get to October, we will have said, oh my goodness, we know we're in the midst of tremendous change within our world. And because of the asteroid fields, in fact, there was an asteroid that was seen over in England. They got some pictures up on it. It happened 3 days ago, and it was a meteor, left a big long trail as it burned through the atmosphere.
It burned up.
We don't know. So far the reports are just simply saying that it went out of sight past the trees, but it looked like it was going to land somewhere. But
they wouldn't tell you if it did.
But at this point in time, there are no reports. But the one that we were talking about in Nigeria, several weeks ago, it was about 3 weeks ago, I think is when we first learned about that one, and it impacted. And they said it was a bomb that blew up, fire that was in a truck, and some bombs.
Yeah, we've already explained all that. It was a meteor.
So that one, they've got some overhead shots. I guess someone took a drone out there and got some overhead shots, and you can actually see the impact zone.
What about the double one that was the intersecting meteors? Have we ever heard anything?
We didn't hear anything on the. I was trying to remember which day. I think it was supposed to be around the 15th. And nothing showed up. So,
or at least
not that we know of. I mean, that apparently it missed us, flew by, and no one reported by it. But it was a near miss. But also that as we get to, we're right now in the peak of meteor showers, and this is something that they've seen as planned. I think it's the Lycrid or something like that, meteor showers, and you're supposed to be able to see it in the dark hours right before dawn. So if anybody's up in the dark hours right before dawn, you can go out there and take a look at it, and you see some meteor showers. And
you usually are.
Well, we're talking probably about 5 in the morning.
5
time, 5 or 6.
Already,
yeah. So if you're in that time, that's Central Time. So maybe roughly,
who knows?
Your pre-dawn hours, wherever you live.
Pre-dawn would be more like 4.
Yeah. So nevertheless, those are some things to be looking at. You know your areas better than I do, but we want to. That's what's leading up to the next thing is April 29th. There's been some chatter about that. April 29th. No one knows what's going to happen. Possibly an impact with a meteor. I did listen to a report this last week which said there's an 85% of an impact of a meteor in the Pacific Ocean, and I believe they either said April 29th or around May 15th. Now, this impact in the ocean would
produce a tsunami.
Yeah, is pretty serious, because the fact that it could cause a tsunami, and when you connect the dots, why did they move the B-52 bombers out of Guam? They were all sent back to their Air Force base in North Dakota. This just like 2 or 3 days ago. So why did they do that? Why did those move out? Now, the official report is that they moved it out because they're so close to China with China's supersonic missiles and bomb cruise missile capability. They wanted to get them out of Guam. It doesn't make sense to have them that forward in the theater of the Pacific. So they moved that out. But if they're expecting an impact in the Pacific Ocean, then possibly Guam might be affected. by it. So these are just things that we're watching for. These are some things that we need to be aware of. And then, but going back to what Stephen Ben-Nun was talking about, is that it would be over the course of the summer that we would be seeing all these different concerns. So with the asteroids, with the meteors, with the fireballs, whatever you want to call them. This is the season that we're getting ready to enter into. The next element is for much of the United States, this is a time of severe drought. Western part of the United States has been in a very, very severe drought, probably for 10 years, would you say? From California, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Nevada, Arizona, probably New Mexico. These are parts of the states under severe drought. I don't know how we're going to be affected here in Texas, but here we got to remember too that the core of the earth is heating up. We just got hit by a major coronal blast from the sun yesterday. And if you're up in the northern part of the United States and in Canada, and if you had clear skies, you would have seen an amazing array of the northern lights because of this impact. But what's happened every time you get a coronal blast, you're getting the Earth's magnetic field absorbs it, and then the energy that comes from it, what does it do? It goes into the poles and it drives into the core of the Earth. But on the other side,
then what results from the
and on the other side, we've been getting hit with blasts of gamma radiation on the other side of the Earth,
from what we don't know,
which we don't know. It's something's incoming. Let's just put it that way. That's producing this gamma radiation, and it causes the core of the Earth to heat up, and so that's why we continue to have impact in the magma flow running through the Earth's crust, and increased volcanoes and earthquakes. So these are things we know about. We've been talking about this for a long time. Krakatoa blew this last week, in the last few days. And it was during the time of, I think it was around.
Not everybody that's listening might know what Krakatoa is.
Krakatoa is a major volcano that's down in Southeast Asia. When it blew back in the early 1800s, Benjamin Franklin recorded that it was the year that there was no summer. That's how severe. When that one went out, it actually covered the entire world.
So that would have hit the United States.
So as that dust begins to circulate around the world, it begins to cover and begins to cover up the sun. So those are just some of the things I want to talk about with the things that we're keeping an eye out. And Sandy and you and I were talking about something. It was during our Torah talk last night. We were talking about, how in the Word in Luke chapter 21, it says, "Look up, for your redemption draws nigh." Do you remember what you said about that?
Well, we talked about looking up. The stars don't change. Everything, man can manipulate everything else on the earth, but the stars, reading the heavens, doesn't ever change.
Yeah.
So it's always going to be truthful. But also, look up. It's telling the story. Maybe it's telling us what's happening. Maybe, with all of the chaos that's happening in the heavens, of course, it's manifested here. And also look up, because your redemption is drawing nigh. Yeshua is on his way. Look up, because that's where destruction is coming from. You can look at it many different ways.
Yeah. So I really thought it was very interesting, though, that when you made the point, because remember Daniel was the one that was responsible about teaching the what we've called the wise men,
but they were
to be able to read the heavens. It was Abraham that was able to read the heavens, because the whole gospel of creation is in the heavens. It's in the stars, it's star patterns. And this is not astrology. It's just been hijacked by the occult. But in the story of the constellations and the stars and the naming of the stars, there's actually meaning that actually speaks to the Bessarah, the news about Yeshua the Messiah, who is coming and is returning again. So when we say, look up, and we look up for our redemption is drawing nigh, how do you know it? Is because you learn how to read even the signs that are in the heavens.
And there are signs in the heavens right now.
Yeah.
They're telling us something, folks.
Yeah. So, and which reminds me of something also, what Mike from Around the World was saying is that the skies are going to begin to look different. So as we look up and we start seeing things, we probably be expecting that there's going to be weird phenomena going on when we look into the skies because of different things are happening within our solar system. Now, I really believe that there's things that are happening not only with the asteroid fields that are being that our planet is going to be passing through these fields. And I understand that there's people out there that says, well, we're not revolving, we're not going around the sun and that type of thing. Just, I guess you're going to be proved out if you don't believe that things are happening. Just saying, don't shut me off because you don't agree with me on that. Just let's pay attention, let's look, and let's test everything. And that's what when we're here, we're talking about these things, test everything, and study it out, and let's see where it's going. The next thing I wanted to talk about was this. Some of you may have been seeing some of the reports about this, but I did want to call it to everyone's attention. And this has to do with a patent that Bill Gates and his foundation has done. And this patent is patent 2020-060606. What does that remind you of? Well, what this is it's a patent in order to put a type of, I'm going to say, chip. I'm getting my fingers here, and I'm putting those in air quotes. A type of chip. It is an implanted nanoparticle RFID system within the body. Now, we've been talking about how this is going to be related to the tracking of the coronavirus. And for those people that are out there, if you don't have the antibodies, and they're going to put this tattoo type of system within your body, and then your body's going to communicate to the artificial intelligence to let the artificial intelligence know whether or not you are approved to engage in commerce, to go to the store, to live, to be part of the culture, part of the society. And so we actually. They've actually found the patent for it, and it is 2020-060606. Interesting enough that they chose that number for the patent. It is a micro tattoo. Do you have it right there? Yeah. Okay, what's it say?
I don't know what part you want.
Okay, so basically, this is going to be tied in to a cryptocurrency. So now they're tying in the immune system, vaccination to a cryptocurrency.
It is called a cryptocurrency system using body activity data.
Yeah. So what your body is doing is going to communicate with the AI to show whether or not you are socially approved and the things that you're doing are socially acceptable. Now, how is that going to benefit anybody, and why would we ever want to do that? Well, because they're introducing this new cryptocurrency system that if you are a good citizen, then they're going to pay you with cryptocurrency. And that's the currency of the future.
What is cryptocurrency?
Cryptocurrencies. Now, if you haven't been following cryptocurrency, it is a currency that is not controlled by the banks. It is based on data information that you can either buy and get cryptocurrency, and there's a whole bunch of different cryptocurrencies that are out there, and you go out and buy it personally, or you can mine for it, because there's little bits of data throughout the internet system that if you find the bits of data and put it together, you can actually build a portfolio of cryptocurrency, which you can actually cash out and get money for.
But then you're dealing with the banks if you're cashing them out.
But so it's a way to get outside of the banking system and still have a viable currency that many people are using as a way to buy and sell. and then you control your money. The banks don't control your money, and you save it on a thumb drive or something like that, where it's crypto, so it's all encrypted and protected, and you're the only one that can control that money. So this is what Bill Gates is doing. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is that they're tying this tattoo into a cryptocurrency, which is going to give everybody the incentive, especially when they're very, very hungry and they don't have any money because they've been locked out of work. So if you just go down and you can get this new tattoo, then they're going to give you cryptocurrency, and now you can buy and sell. Now you're going to be legal. Now you're going to be a good citizen. You're going to get benefits, and because it's going to be so popular, and you get in there first, then maybe you can get 100 credits of cryptocurrency that may quickly bounce up to $5 million worth of cryptocurrency. So who knows how this is going to go, but hey, if you get in on the ground floor, you have a better chance of becoming very, very wealthy. And then as long as you're a good little boy, a good little girl, then guess what? Then you can continue to buy and sell and with your cryptocurrency. And guess what? You don't have to touch those nasty different keypads when you use for your debit card or your credit card when you check out, or that nasty money. You can use just a swipe of your arm and be able to engage in commerce. Here's the thing about it, and this is what makes me really sad. And Sandy, you can probably comment on this. And this is that it is an injectable ink that goes under the skin that you cannot see. So we all know about tattoos. Do you realize why tattoos became so popular in the last 25 years? Think about it, especially in the last 20 years. They have promoted tattooing of the body so that at some point in juncture in the future, which is now 2020, people would find a tattooing of some type of mark under the skin. It's normal. Tattoo. It's just one more thing. It's become commonplace, especially here in the United States. Now, other countries are maybe a little bit different, but it's very common here in the United States for people to mark up their bodies and be tattooed. Maybe that's one reason why the Torah says don't tattoo your body. But nevertheless, when it is the ink, follow me,
nanoparticles.
They're nanoparticles. They don't just stay in that one place where they're injected. They actually get into the bloodstream and they travel throughout the body. That's why it's impossible to remove the mark once you receive it. Now, what does the Bible say about the mark?
You talk about that because, I mean, there's so many things and so many, especially in the Hebrew Messianic group community, on what the mark is. So, and many don't think it's anything like that. So,
okay, and that's true. It is true. And there's lots of, but think of it as a diamond. And I know from the traditional Christianity side of things, they look at it from one side. I can't get on. Look at it one side, and then here in the Hebrew roots, we're looking at it as a whole bunch of different areas because it's a facet.
So it's many
faceted.
It's a diamond.
It's many faceted.
Many layers.
Many layers. But
many layers to the mark.
Yeah, many layers of the mark. But if you think about it, is that it connects with the AI system. That's why they're pushing the 5G system so hard. And so think about this. What have they been doing while everybody has been sheltering in place?
Putting up towers?
Maybe putting up towers. They're doing it so that they can have a network by which they can connect with people. And of course, where are they going to put them first? Where are they going to have the biggest impact? In the population centers. Why do they not want people living in rural areas? Why do they want to move people out of the small towns and get them into the big cities? Because they cannot necessarily get 5G in all places, except in the satellites that they're putting up. So,
well, I'd like to move to one of those rural places.
I heard there's a place in West Virginia that is supposed to be totally.
I do not want to move to West Virginia.
Totally, or maybe it's in the western part of Virginia. Maybe, I don't know. There's supposed to be places.
Virginia is liberal now.
I know. There's supposed to be
no way.
There's supposed to be places that are supposed to be frequency free, and that's where the elite are buying property. And
Isn't it amazing how the elite always opt out of everything?
It's amazing how they get around those systems.
I opt out of their mandatory healthcare system, opt out of, anyway.
So we know what Revelation says about talking about the mark of the beast. Well, the artificial intelligence system, from what I've understood and what I've come across, is that it actually became active in October of 2019. So that it is completely active right now. And a lot of times the censorship that we're seeing on the social media is actually being completely controlled by AI. And we know there's people in the background that do all the algorithms and stuff, but it's actually thinking for itself, looking for key issues. That's why certain people that are on the internet will not use particular words, especially if they've got a big following and a lot of people watching. They will do it in code in order to not lose audience and in order to keep their programs being put out in front for those people that are just.
Yes, you need to teach me what those words are.
Yeah. So, but anyway, when we look at this system and it's communicating with the AI technology, this is how it's working. And I'm going to give you just a preview. There was a place, I don't remember. I don't remember the town, but they were celebrating, get this, Weed Day. Okay.
That was Monday.
Yeah. And so they were having a party over at these people's house on Weed Day. And guess who showed up at the front door? Well, everybody's inside. You guess how many were there? There were 40 people that gathered. They weren't social distancing, were they? But nevertheless, they were gathered together in this one home celebrating Weed Day. And guess who comes knocking at the door? The police department. Well, how did they know? Well, because when they were looking at people's cell phones, they saw that there were 40 cell phones that all gathered together at one location, which was breaking the.
That is why we shouldn't be carrying cell phones.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
I know.
I'm serious.
So think about that. So guess what? These people were getting busted. They're getting fines for gathering, breaking the rules. They're not supposed to have more than, groups of had to be less than 10, and they're certainly, violating the 6-foot rule and all this type of thing. Why? Because they had that many cell phones gathering together. Because the police are monitoring now. They have access to monitor the movement of cell phones and seeing who's coming in contact with whom.
But isn't that a violation? Or is it in the fine print of your cell phone?
It is certainly. I will say this. I didn't give. Well, actually, when you sign off on a lot of these things, it gives permission.
Because they're fine print, and it's so many pages and it's so many details, and it's all. That's why. There used to be a day and a time when we didn't have to carry cell phones, and I think we need to return to that. You can take a camera with you. You can. There are other ways to do things.
Yeah. Now, so in my opinion, it seems like this seems to be a violation of the Fourth Amendment.
I agree with you.
Because when we're looking at authorities now tracking our cell phones to make sure that we're not closer than 6 feet to people.
I mean, that in itself is a violation too.
Yeah, it is a violation, and yet we're being controlled and we're being compliant. When we went to Lowe's on Sunday, and guess what? They only allow so many people in the store at a time because they don't want you getting too close, except at checkout. Of course, you're supposed to maintain 6 feet between each other at checkout. Stand here, move forward, and the next person moves forward. Whatever. In fact, their garden areas is off limits because it's not essential. They're going to be closing out the garden areas in Lowe's and places like that. Why?
Because of liberals.
So hopefully we won't be doing it in the state of Texas, but you may be living in a state where they may be doing this. Now, here's the next thing that really concerns me. So now you get this mark. Now you can go in and you can have transactions. It's connected. Your cryptocurrency is connected to your bank account. And by the way, if you're not a good little citizen, they'll just shut you off for 72 hours. How's that? And then you can't buy any food for your family 4, family 6. Maybe you need something, some type of supplies, and you're just going to have to sit there and wait until they say, okay, you can now participate in commerce. That's a very scary prospect. There are pastors out there. This is very, very serious. And if you have, people that are have pastors that are saying this, you need to warn your family members, friends, that if your pastor is saying, don't worry about this tattoo, it's not the mark that you need to be concerned about, that it's okay to go ahead and get it. There are pastors that I think should know better. But
do you know any by name?
Well, I do know that several years ago that John MacArthur said,
okay, well, let's not say the names.
I'm going to say the name that he said this was several years ago. Maybe he's changed his position now, but several years ago, he was telling his people, it's, if there's a mark and this is mark the beast, it'll be okay because you're under grace. And that you'll be forgiven for it. But as far as I can read in the word is that there's no forgiveness. If you have aligned yourself with the beast system, then you go down with the beast system. And
if this isn't the so-called mark, it's still a mark where people are tracking you and make it and dictating every area of your life. You don't need it.
Yeah.
Come on, people.
Yeah. And because it is truly an alignment of giving up your own freedom for security. In other words, you can have food security if you join the system. And we need to be a people that says, no, we're not going to be controlled that way. We will not be controlled by what you dictate over us just because you have more money than we do. If we as people all over, not only just the United States, but all over the world says, no, we are not going to participate. They just have few numbers. They're fearful of people that will stand boldly and take courage. But unless we hang together, we will hang separately, as was said during the Revolutionary War in the United States. And that is the key. I think that, and we need to understand there's a lot of. Do we
have that many patriots though?
That's the
that
concern.
Are brave enough. I think we have a lot of people that believe that way, but are brave enough to buck the system, because that's how it needs to be done, is united.
Well, and that is the concern. That is really one of the biggest concerns that we have. Who's going to stand up? And, if
let's look at who's standing up now. Nobody, very few.
Yeah. Well, and there are rallies all over the United States
their tide's starting to rise as unrest is beginning, because this is ridiculous.
And you can see it when you can go back to before all this stuff broke out. You can go back to what happened in Virginia when the people are standing up for their Second Amendment rights. Well, now since this coronavirus type of deal that's been taking place, Michigan stood up against their dictatorial governor and said, no, we're not going to take it anymore. And the governor's come out and said, I don't care if you rally or not. I'm not changing my rules. And so Michigan, you need to stay on top of things and go after, and you need to recall your governor. Last time I heard they had like over 300,000 signatures to recall the governor.
It should be easy to get
recall the vote. Yeah. So you all in Michigan, you need to stand up. And I'm going to tell you, I don't care if you're left or right. When there's policies that take away your rights and your freedoms, I don't care what side of the spectrum you're on. That's extremely dangerous, and it's completely un-American. And it's also, look what's happened to other countries when they've lost it. The Magna Carta in England has been thrown out, and that's what the first 10 amendments of the U.S. Constitution is built upon, is the Magna Carta. It goes all the way back to the 12th century. And when the people said, no, you cannot be tyrants over us. We're people that have the right to have, we have rights, the right to speak our mind and to stand up and for the rights of our family, the protection of our family, and not be ruled by a tyrant. So I'm really, really concerned about what some churches are saying about this and what these pastors are saying, because they're leading people astray. When we look over in 2 Thessalonians, let's just go over here and look at it. And it's just the symptom of everything. that we're seeing today. And like you said, Sandy, are there going to be people that are be willing to stand up? Because I know people even within Hebrew Roots and the Messianic communities that are saying, well, this stuff's supposed to happen, so I'm just going to bunker down. I'm just going to kind of fly under the radar. I don't believe that is, if we've been
Ever
given
our position.
if we've been given the responsibility, if we've been given that opportunity to speak out, because we're talking about tyranny that will enslave people, and whether we have a lot of time or not much time, we still must stand up for the innocent. Just like we need to stand up for the unborn, we need to stand up for the innocent. And I'm thinking about my granddaughter, and that if
The world she would live in.
the type of world she would live in, if I'm not around, do I want her to live in any type of dictatorship where they might even, try to force her to be vaccinated, force her to make decisions that will harm her? I don't want that. Medical tyranny is no different than martial law, and that's what we're experiencing right now. But 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, when it talks about the man of lawlessness, who is the man who is without the Torah, and it's where it says that starting in verse 7, for the mystery of lawlessness, what is lawlessness? Without the Torah, is already at work. Only he who now restrains will do so until he is taken out of the way. Then that lawless one, the one without the Torah, will be revealed, whom the Lord will slay with the breath of his mouth and bring to an end by the appearance of his coming. So there's some good news there, but still there's an interim time. Verse 9, that is the one who is coming in accord with the activity of Hasatan, of Satan, with all power and signs and false wonders, and with all deception of wickedness for those who perish because they did not, now here's the key, because they did not receive the love of the truth so as to be saved. For this reason, Elohim, God, will send upon them a deluding influence so that they might believe what is false. So for many of us that are right here on this network, it's not a difficult thing for us to recognize what is coming upon the world. And we can recognize it for what it is and say, this is a beast system. This is the beast that is rising to take over to take over all of the world. This is a beast system that will determine, get this, think about this. Are you essential or are you not essential? Because
get us used to the idea of essential and non-essential, and then just eliminate the people.
Yeah, because what have we heard for years? What did Hillary Clinton talk about? She brought it out in her own speeches, talking about the useless eaters. Well, if one is not essential or useless, then why should they be fed? And then, but why string them along to where they might cause problems and riots in the streets and gather and protest? Then why not just gather up those people that are not essential and take them off to the guillotines? They have determined that guillotines, by the way, is probably the most cost-effective way to eliminate population. It's cost-effective, it's quick, it's easy, and all they have to do is round them up and take care of them. Knock them out, chop their heads off with their heads. All right. So, I don't mean to make too much light of it, but the serious of the hour that we're living in. But the key on this is there's a connection between whether we love the truth or not. And it really makes me concerned is that if one person says that they trust in the loving kindness and the grace of God, they think of grace as opposed. Grace means the power to overcome. They look at grace as, no, God will let me slide. That's how they define grace. Then they are erring on the truth. They don't understand scriptures. They're not digging into the scriptures. And anybody that would say, well, it's going to be okay, or they don't recognize that if you get some type of tattoo that injects nanobots, the ink is the nanobots, and you cannot get it out of your body. You can't just chop your hand off. You can't just chop your arm off, because once it goes into your body, it is traveling throughout your system of your body, it's there. Your body's still going to be communicating with the AI. It's still going to be communicating with those sensors in the door that says, oh, you're approved. You can pick up your items in the store and you won't even have to go through checkout, because it's just going to connect with the sensors as you leave the door with the product. I mean, no reason to touch anything anymore, because that's how they're going to sell this whole thing. That's how they are selling these things. A lot of people are waking up to the truth, but it is for some, it may be too late. For some, they're already under the delusion. They're saying, oh, isn't this great? Don't they have the solution already? But they were the ones that caused the problems. It's the Bill Gates, when we started out talking about today, it is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation that funded the Wuhan laboratories that bought the patent on the COVID-19 virus. They bought the patent for it. They're the ones that started the whole ordeal. And as the truth continues, I've been talking about this for weeks, it is man-made. There's multiple diseases. It's spliced into this thing and has been sent out. I think it's activated. I think it's activated by 5G. I think there's a connection there, and there's a reason why it affects particularly the elderly and those that are compromising their immune systems, those that have various diseases. Why? Because they are put in the category of, what good are they providing society? What was that one movie, Logan's Run, that was put out years ago? In the 70s, talking about, well, who are the most useful people in society? It's the ones
under 30,
with those people that have the strength and the energy, and they can be controlled. I'm sure there's going to be the elders, some certain masters that'll be allowed to let you know what you can and cannot do. But other than that, everybody else it needs to be culled. That's the thing. In China, it's those that were over 50. They're on retirement, forced retirement. They're living off the state. Well, the state can't handle it anymore. China is in such debt. They needed to be able to relieve some of the pressure of the cost. And so what do? They release something that affects the elderly so they can cull their populations. So
not everybody probably knows what cull is.
Yeah, culling is like when you cull your herd, you cull your flocks. What are you doing?
Thin them out.
You're thinning them out. You're harvesting your herd and taking it to the market and selling it, getting rid of it, killing it off, whatever it is. So these are just a lot of these elements. Y'all put the pieces together, see how that's working. Joe says here, it changes your DNA. These things they're going to tie themselves to the DNA of your very body. It's going to cause us to be changed, that our DNA will no longer even be human. You're going to look human, but it's not going to be the DNA by which our Creator gave us. And I don't know how it's going.
I wonder if there'll be a tell. I'm sure there will be, but you'd have to discover it.
Yeah. So these different things is the deluding influence is the people that say, well, this seems like a good idea, and they don't get it, and they're like blind. They don't understand the hour we're living in. They don't understand we've got food shortages. We don't understand that a lot of this has been generated by these are plans that have been put into place. And they just don't want to believe it. They don't want to pull their head out of the sand and recognize what's going on around us. It's because there's an issue. It's a hard issue. It's an issue of they don't love the truth. And because of it, the deluding influence is already upon them. I've been saying this for years. And I think we've always, Sandy and I said this, we want to know the truth. We just want to know the truth. What is the real truth? And the Father has opened up our eyes to so many different things because we don't want to be caught in the great delusion. We were saying that even years before we were technically Hebrew roots. And so y'all just pay attention. This is why we're bringing this today, because we really care. We want you to know. We want you to spread this information, put it on your social media, give us a thumbs up, help us get the algorithms out. People need to know how these things are happening. If you don't have time to search the news, I don't have much time anymore, but I'm trying to pick out and glean the stuff that is affecting us most. And as we work through these elements today, so I hope you got something out of it. Research the scripture, go back and study out the mark. I love the teachings that are different points of view about the mark and what it is. I love those. It's multi-dimensional. I think they all relate. I think they're all tied together. So
our mark is, well, I was going to say a Sabbath, part of it. So
that's right. The mark, the wedding ring, is the Shabbat. It is should be the most prized celebration, feast day,
where
so
we
to speak,
come together,
where we gather together of the year, Shabbat. Then we also have the other 7 Moedims, which are also wonderful. But think about it. I think that is the connector. That is the key.
Yes.
It shows who we are. So, all right. Well,
thank you for the update, Mr. Craig.
Thank you all for joining us today here on Messianic Lamb Radio, Walking in Spirit and Truth. And that's all I've got to say about that.
You had a lot to say.
Yeah, didn't expect to go this long.
That's right.
So, well, anyway, on behalf of Walking in Spirit and Truth, this is John Craig.
And this is Sandi.
And until next time, shalom.